And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, July 4th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
That's fine.
Doing well.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Well, we got a smaller group today, probably because it's July 4th, but
Yes.
we are still officially open for business.
Boom.
So, but the first thing we're going to talk about is
Uh-oh, you froze.
what I do.
Revive Rocco.
Oh, he's there. Here he comes.
He's back.
I'm back.
Yeah.
you're back.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We have a list of things to talk about, but we are going to start with Ubuntu Unity Remix. So if you guys want to raise your hands, those of you who would like to talk about it. Otherwise, Dan, did you get a chance to try it this week?
I did. I got it installed on the test laptop, and it was a wonderful blast from the past for me. I didn't do a lot with it, but I did mess around with it a little bit, and gotta say, still miss the HUD. That's the thing for me. So, yeah, that's how my week went.
Well, I did install it, and I messed around with it, and I played with it because I was like, after Unity died, I did enjoy Unity. So there you go. You can have that. But this brought back some memories for me that even now today, as polished as GNOME is polished, I still think there are certain things about Unity that are still more polished than GNOME. And we'll just go from the menu itself down to the HUD and everything. The unfortunate part about the Ubuntu Unity Remix, and it's nothing to take away from it, but without that HUD on applications, it just doesn't have that same appeal as it did. There are, even the global menus, there are certain applications that the global menu doesn't work with. So you have it there. You have that the memories of using Unity and the cool features of it, but then half of it doesn't have it. And it, not that, like I said, I'm not trying to take away from it, but go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, and that's not even so much Unity as the application has to be built for the global menu and stuff. So, yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate it doesn't have it.
Yep. So it has Nemo installed and Files. So I guess Files comes with it just because it's, I guess, part of the deal. But I guess Nemo is the default file manager. But like I said, I just, I installed a few applications on it, and I remember it being very polished, but it kind of loses some of that polish once you start messing with half the things that don't work right with it anymore. So there's my take on it. Joshua, go ahead.
Hello. Okay, I have to let my cat go. So, Ubuntu Unity is something that shouldn't have existed for probably a while, mainly probably ever since 2017, or when the first Ubuntu Discourse post was created describing a creation of an Ubuntu Unity, which was it worked well, but the problem was there was a lot of jumping around, and there would be a lot of who takes power, and no one was really stabilized. They were kind of dormant, but they were still active, and I just had no idea what happened. And then it's something that shouldn't have happened earlier, in my opinion, and I'm very glad it exists now, especially during the year of the Linux desktop. I think that the main effort is also trying to maintain Unity, and I'm not sure, from what I've been hearing, about possibly getting Unity 8 in there. I think they might end up skipping that. But aside from that, it's pretty great that this project exists. And I'm definitely in touch with the lead developer, and I'm glad that this exists. Otherwise, I'm actually going to play with it a little more, actually, put it back in the virtual machine. Otherwise, it's pretty polished. Of course, it still has some slick spots otherwise, but it's mostly pretty nice to use. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can take away.
All right, thanks, Joshua. Let's see, Barbara. I see you've got your hand up. Go right ahead.
Okay. I put it on my XPS 13, and I mean, I was one of those people who loved Unity, and was kind of very upset when they decided not to have it anymore. And then I ended up going to Ubuntu Mate. But the thing that I agree, I mean, basically it's like it was before, except it's running under 2004, except what it doesn't have. And it is those global menus. And that was one of the things that I really liked.
Yep.
So that's really been my big thing. I mean, other than that, you know, it's very much like the previous Unity remix, except it's now running on 2004.
Yep.
Well, I think this version, like there are other Unity versions out there, like Umix, Tony George puts out, and his is a little bit customized. Like it has a few tweaks to the panel and a few features added, like network monitors and CPU monitors and stuff like that. This is more of a stock Unity, I would say. But you know, like the one problem I have with it is I have the high DPI monitor, and it works. It scales it, and then I hit keep this configuration. As soon as I reboot, it's gone. As soon as I reboot, it's back to the 4K monitor without the scaling. So there's little, I think, tweaks that need to be done to make it usable, but it's a good start.
And the other thing that I noticed, this was interesting, when I went to download it, I decided, okay, I'll try the torrent. I could not get the torrent to download. And yes, I have a torrent client on my machine. It's not that I don't have one. And it just would not, it just kind of sat there. So then I tried, in fact, I had to try it twice. Oh, which one was it that I used? The one, they have the 3 different options. It was the one on the left.
Mega,
I think it was. And I did not download it as a zip file. I just downloaded just the ISO. But it took me twice to get it to download. So I don't know, and and I couldn't get the torrent to work. So I don't know if it's them or what servers it's sitting on, because I normally don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did download it with a torrent. Yeah, I didn't notice any issues. It's a big ISO. It's really large. I did notice that.
It's like 3.4
almost
gig
4,
or something.
Almost 4 gig, right?
Yeah,
something like that. And so it took a while, and there wasn't a lot of seeders, but it did come down fine. So
I mean, I waited
like
like
the torrent.
5-10 minutes and still didn't even start it. And it was still just like sitting there spinning its wheels, and said, forget that. And I'll try just downloading the ISO, which did download pretty quickly, which was interesting.
Good. All right. Anything else, Barb?
No, that's really it right now. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Colin, go ahead. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I been trying the Ubuntu Unity out, and I agree with Rocco. This the GNOME files is in there, but it doesn't have the global menu. So even though it's in there out of the box, the global menu doesn't work for that, but it works for Nemo. So that was so I thought that was a bit strange. So I would have thought it would have been the opposite way around, to be honest, because GNOME files should be the default, shouldn't it be, for the Unity? Even though
I would think so. Yeah,
you'd have to think it's more integrated than Nemo, but I thought that was a bit weird. And I did a Rocco. I found a pixel out of place. I found there was a little bit in the corner on the window where 2 places meet in the corner. I found a pixel out of place. It was just white in the corner. So
okay.
I don't normally see these things, but it did. And like you say, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Nope, you can't.
But I did mess around with some themes and tried my Quokka theme in there, because I thought the brownish panel up the top didn't suit the theme that he had going with the wallpaper at the back. So I tried the Quokka theme. That seems to implement a little, well, from my perspective, it looks a little bit more suited than the ambience, because I think it was the ambience they had running by default.
Sure.
But as far as the system goes, running pretty well anyway. I do like the way the Unity works with all the zooms and everything else. But yeah, I was messing around with the scale, but I can't tell whether scale works or not because I don't have HI DPI, so it doesn't bother me too much. So it's very hard to check. Although I probably could scale it and save it, probably be the same thing. It might not save. I don't know.
Well, Colin, I found a pixel off as well. So, like, the theme was really good, but I just happened to see that Unity Tweak was installed by default, which is great. And I went into the themes area, and I didn't want to, really, honestly, but I mistakenly clicked on another theme, and it changed it to the default Unity theme. And I can't get it back to the regular default theme of the operating system because it's not there.
You can just reset defaults button down the bottom.
Where in Unity Tweak?
Yeah, there's a reset defaults. Yeah.
I'll check that out.
And you know what? That might not have been your fault because that happened to me and I don't remember changing it. The same thing happened to me and I went, oh, I don't remember changing it. I don't know whether it did that on its own because there was something really weird that happened there. Same with me. And I think the icons did the same thing because the icons had changed at some point and I thought maybe I'd changed them. I don't know. There was a couple of really strange anomalies that happened there. So I don't know what the deal is there. Maybe when you open it, it does something funny. I don't know. But I don't know if that was your fault, but definitely I reset back to defaults and it went to ambient, I think. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Yeah, it did. But I just changed it back. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, no worries.
So my potato test laptop is on the opposite end of spectrum from high DPI. It's 1280 by 800. You know, it's the forbidden, or should be forbidden, resolution since it's absolutely hideous. But I didn't have any problems, so I mean that's good. I mean, so it works on both ends. That's really nice.
Right.
Well, like I said, the high DPI works great. I mean, it scales instantly. You apply it, you keep this configuration. It's great, except it doesn't keep it. So.
But considering it's just a young guy, a young bloke doing this, I think he's doing a pretty good job so far. And obviously, there's going to be some work to be done under the hood as he goes. So I think for the first 2004, and he's got it in there. I think he's doing pretty well considering. So
yeah,
I like the way he's themed it, and everything looks quite nice anyway. So
yeah, that's why I was upset, dude, because I didn't want the ambient theme, and then when I clicked that, it went all goofy, and I'm like, how do I get it back? Like, there's no theme there to pick. So yeah, hitting the restore defaults worked, but yeah, it's a pretty nice theme.
Yeah. So I wish the young guy the best of luck moving forward, and I hope he can sort out some of the issues and some of these underlying issues anyway. They might be just it can't be easy getting an old Unity and trying to bring it up to speed for today. So there's probably a little bit of work to be done there. I don't know how all that works, but you know,
getting an old Unity trying to bring it up to speed for today. So there's probably
how you doing, Richard?
I don't know how all that works, but you know,
somebody's got sound on.
You have to turn the stream off in order to, because it's coming through your speakers.
Somebody's got sound on.
You have to turn the stream.
There we go.
There we go.
That's good. Anyway, I'm done. I wish the young bloke the best of luck moving forward. So
excellent. Jinda, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do, Nate. Thank you so much. Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Same to you.
Yes, great. I ran Unity, and unfortunately, it's going to be the same comments that everybody else made. I mean, it did bring back old times. I never was a Unity fan, so if I was now, then they did it wrong, so to speak. You know what I mean? Not to be a backhanded compliment, but trying to make fun of this. I was impressed that they did bring it back. This is a challenge to do. I did the same thing that Rocco did. I changed the theme and couldn't figure out how to get it back, and I didn't find any pixels out of place because I'm not that kind of person. Sorry, Rocco. I'm not.
I get it. I get it.
You get it? Okay. It is very nice. It's like I said, it's not my cup of tea. But once again, I mean, does it have to be? No. I'm just here looking for, say, bugs and issues and big problems, and I really didn't see any. I didn't see any problems. I ran, a whole bunch of software on it. I played with it, on and off for days. You know what I mean? And I thought I would like it more the more I played with it to try to get used to it, and I didn't because it's just not for me. But so what? Who cares? That's silly. That doesn't mean anything. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much. So I see, Shickle, you have your hand up.
Yes, I did.
I knew it. I saw it. I could sense it. It was like you were already boiling to bless us with your ideas.
So I gave it a try, and I kind of missed Unity. It's Unity 7, so it's the one that kind of was most present for everybody. Unity 8 didn't get as much light, just because I don't think it ever got ready by the time that things were starting to ship. And I thought it was pretty cool. It definitely does feel a bit nostalgic for me because when I first came into Linux, Unity was kind of at its best point, and then it kind of just went away. And so that's kind of like a good memory for me in some ways. But I was really curious too, because when I was using it, I didn't really have any issues, but it does definitely still feel kind of exactly the same as Unity felt. Sorry about that. I have neighbors.
It's all right. All right. So who else is left? Tony, sir, how are you?
Oh, good. Thanks, Rocker. Yeah, I tried it. I quite like it, but I found a few things annoying about it. The minimize and close buttons are on the left.
Yes,
and I
loved it.
Could not find a way to move them to the right. The tweak tool didn't seem to have a setting for it unless I missed it, but I couldn't find a way to move them, and that bugged me. Also, when you open up File Manager or any other window, it always seemed to go to the left top corner, and there was no way to centralize it. Unless, again, it's a setting I missed, but I could not find a way to do that. And other than that, it worked okay. The theme was quite nice, and the Nemo File Manager is one of the best, my favorite. So that was okay, but if I could fix those two things, then it would be a lot better for me. But unless anybody knows a way I could fix those, I couldn't find it. So that's about all I've got to say about it, really.
I don't think there is a way to center the windows. I don't know of a way personally. I thought there was a way to move the buttons to the right, but maybe it's not in Tweak. I don't know. I'd have to actually.
I don't remember where it's in Tweak Tools, but it is in Tweak Tools.
Yeah, I thought there was a way.
It depends on the version of Unity Tweak, I think, because sometimes you find it's there and sometimes it's not. I haven't seen it anywhere.
Right. Anything else, Tony?
No, that's it really. I mean, the Unity Tweaks was already installed on the system out of the box, so I just played around with that one. But whether there's an update for that or anything, I don't know.
All right, Shickle, go ahead. You can continue, dude.
I think they parked, so we're good. It definitely did feel Wow, I really cannot catch a break today.
Don't worry about it, dude.
definitely
We can't
did
hear it.
feel,
We can't.
like-
we can barely hear it.
Yeah. Just a
okay,
little
it's
bit.
really loud to me, so I have
It's-
no
it's
idea
not
how
here.
bad that is. The one thing that did concern me though is that like it does feel very 2016, and I mean we're already coming up on 2021. Unity 7, as far as I know, is just in maintenance mode. I don't know where it's gonna go from here. Like I'm very curious to know what the development plans are, because at some point, I mean, it's not an easy desktop to maintain. Like it's probably the hardest desktop to maintain out of all of them, and I don't really know what the plans are for development after it's no longer maintained officially. Like what happens then?
I don't know.
No, I'm very curious about that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Shickle. Rudra, just wanted to check in, see if you got your audio fixed. Go right ahead. And Rudra is the lead developer for Ubuntu Unity. Go right ahead. No? Oh.
Your mic is low. We can't hear you.
Yeah, we're not hearing anything.
Maybe Zoom's on the wrong mic. I'm not sure. Rudra, you keep trying to get your mic working, and we'll keep going and talking.
Absolutely. We'll get back to you.
No stress, buddy.
Let's see. Computer Kid, go right ahead. I see you got your hand up.
Okay, so how's my audio? Is it good?
You're good.
Okay, so Unity was kind of past its time once I got into computers, but I honestly liked it. I thought it looked pretty good. It reminded me of GNOME, honestly, but honestly better. It made GNOME feel kind of like a stripped down version of Unity. Yeah, I really liked it. It looked really polished, but there was nothing really that made me want to stay. I know lots of people like the HUD, but that just didn't feel like it fit into my workflow very well. But yeah, it looked pretty good. I liked it.
Wow, I really like that. He was too young for Unity.
Yeah, that's not us, Nate.
I got onto Ubuntu and it was GNOME by the time I was here.
Okay.
Wow.
Was that shortly after you started walking? I'm just
I
curious.
am a Unityer.
No, I started with the Bionic Beaver.
Ah, nice. I think the first VM I opened was 1404.
Nice. Well, that doesn't make me feel so bad. No, thanks.
I'll
Thanks,
say. Sheesh.
Thomas, go
Unity's
right
still
ahead.
new to me.
Yes.
So the first time I used Unity was on Ubuntu 14.04. Well, actually, I used it before that, but the first time I used it on Ubuntu was on 14.04. So because this is the first DE I started Linux with, I had a lot of nostalgia, and I'm kind of biased towards it. But I did like it overall. I didn't see any animations. I don't know if anybody else had them, but I would have turned them off anyway. So yay, no animations. It feels nice and snappy. I like that he had the papyrus icon theme. Thank you for installing Unity tweak tools by default.
Agreed.
Anytime somebody has a Unity desktop that needs to be installed by default, anytime they have GNOME desktop, they need to have GNOME tweak tools. That's how it needs to be.
Well, I mean, Thomas, I understand why they don't and why they didn't, because they have, customers that don't necessarily need that. That could probably mess things up. But I agree that I think it should be installed by default, but I understand why they didn't.
Right. And I understand why they don't. And if you're someone like Elementary, where you want your system to be configured in a very specific way and cater towards a very specific type of user, that's fine. But the only system that I know of that runs either Unity or GNOME that's even close to that is maybe Fedora. But that's just the first one that comes to mind. I'm sure somebody else can think of something else. But I noticed while I was running it as an ISO in the VM, it seemed like it had swap included in the ISO. And I don't know if it actually did or if that it was just picking up the swap partition on the drive. I don't think so, because I think that swap partition was 4 gigs and it was showing a gig of swap. So I think it was doing something to like make swap automatically, or swaps included in the ISO. I didn't see anything, but that's a great little touch. I love that. And it's great, especially for lower end systems, which this VM was kind of like a lower end system because it only had 4 gigs of RAM. And that is one of the things I didn't like, is that I was actually using swap on idle with that base 4 gigabytes of RAM. So for a system with like 6 gigabytes or more of RAM, it'd probably be perfectly fine. Otherwise, you either need to decrease its tendency to swap things out of memory or toss more RAM in your system. I am super happy it had Nemo by default. I have come to learn just how great Nemo actually is after tinkering with Nautilus for a little bit on another computer of mine. Other than that, it was somewhat laggy. I'm going to chalk that up to the fact that it only had 4 gigabytes of RAM. But it did not scale to the virtual machine window automatically. Most distros, that virtual machine window is 1080p. Most of them, they'll go full screen and be good. This, it was stuck at the 1024 by 768, and I had to manually scale it up. I could manually scale it up, so it's not a huge issue, but that is maybe something to look at. Yeah, too heavy for my tastes at this point in my Linux journey, but I still love it like an old friend. So it's good to see it have a little bit of life breathed back into it.
I'd just like to say, minimize and maximize to me had animations, I've noticed.
Okay, I know when I tried minimizing something, it didn't have an animation, and it might be, there might be, how much RAM did you have?
Are you just sad that there's no wobbly windows?
Yes, there are no wobbly windows.
Thomas, but you were in a VM, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe there's like something in it that turns off animations in a VM, or when you have less than a certain amount of memory, which would be a good touch.
Yeah, I believe it does.
It would probably be the VM thing, because I'm on an older netbookish type machine with 4 gigabytes of RAM and spinning Rust hard drive. I have minimize and maximize animations, but no wobbly windows. So this is very confusing.
No, I've
Okay.
got no wobbly windows.
Yeah, Farron just said in chat that Unity disables transparency and animations in virtual machines. So,
Well, how
nice.
come? So I actually looked. Are wobbly windows a toggle button somewhere, or are they default for some people?
There is a way to configure it. I don't remember seeing it in Unity Tweak, but
I don't think I had wobbly windows by default.
I don't remember
I
that.
know I did.
Yeah,
but
Farron OS Dev is saying it's in the compiz config, wherever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else got anything they want to mention on Ubuntu Unity?
Oh yeah. One more comment on. So he mentioned he was in a VM with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it felt kind of laggy. I have such a different story. I was on 4 gigabytes of RAM, and there was no visible lag. It kind of, like, if I launched an application, it would take a bit longer, but it was on spinning Rust. And when I first installed it, I was doing all kinds of updates, and it wouldn't let me open too many applications, or it would start killing them. But it was not visibly laggy at all.
So what you're saying is that Thomas should probably test it on real hardware rather than a VM. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
you use them if you got them.
I would be willing to do that. Unfortunately, the only two computers I have that are available for testing like that, one is a MacBook and suffers with basically anything I throw at it, and the other one is a 2-in-1, which Unity would be great on. But
Do it.
I've just now gotten GNOME working fantastic with it, but there's still bugs that I'm working with, both in GNOME and XFCE.
You can always put it
So
on your mom's laptop, right?
Yeah, it's new.
just to a new laptop, maybe.
It seems like a
but-
perfect test machine.
Yeah, just do it and just don't tell her. See what happens.
Well, I want to ask you guys about this because there are certain people that didn't like Unity. So, out of you guys that have tried it, have tried Ubuntu Unity Remix, how many of you were actual fans of Unity when it was out?
Oh, I used
Not me.
Unity when it was there.
Okay, so how does it compare to the original Unity? I mean, obviously we talked about the HUD and everything, but overall, how does it compare to having just Ubuntu Unity installed?
It looks a little bit different, mostly with the icon theme.
Yeah.
And I think the transparency on the panel was a little bit different because I remember it having a little bit of transparency, and it didn't have any by default, but that's because it was in a VM, I think.
Yes.
Other than that, it's incredibly similar.
Yeah.
So,
I got to say, though, Rocco, you're asking me to remember a long time ago.
It's at least more than yesterday. Let me tell you.
No, I thought it was a good experience. It seemed very similar to what I remember, and it had the highlights that I really liked. So, I mean,
Yeah, I would
obviously,
agree with.
the file manager itself being different, so that had a little different feel to it. But other than that, I don't know. Just it felt pretty much the same.
I wasn't really a Unity fan. I used it here and there. Didn't dislike it. I wasn't a big fan of it. Back at that time when that came out, theming was one of the biggest things in Linux at that time, and that sort of took a lot of that away. That's why I didn't sort of like that because of that reason. That was the only reason. Functionality-wise, I like the fact that you can open the main menu, and you can actually filter. It's got the filters there. You can filter by application, by category, so you can just Office only there if you want. You can filter everything. So you've got a lot of choices there. It's quite nice. I like those sorts of things. Adds that extra functionality to the main menu.
Well, I didn't appreciate Unity when it was out, but I can tell you that, like here, I'm looking at the workspaces right now, and I honestly like the workspaces in Unity better than the workspaces in GNOME. Like, I like the fact that it's in your face. You got the four; it separates into the four workspaces when you hit the button, and you can easily move the window instead of moving your mouse all the way over to the right and moving things around. So,
yeah, workspaces did not work for me. I tried every key combo. I tried remapping it.
They won't
I tried
work
everything
because it's locked with the VM thing as well because it's a compositor function.
Yep. See, real hardware.
You're
Gotta
definitely
do it.
making your case there, Thomas.
Thomas, you're digging yourself a hole more and more that you need to test this on real hardware.
Hardware.
Unity is the only one that has.
No, it's not the only one that has
no.
problems.
Oh
Some of the
I've
other
had
ones
many
will
have
give you
problems.
fits too.
Yep.
By the way, Rocco,
He says
Nemo is everywhere.
Nemo is the second best file manager on the planet.
Oh,
So that's
a bad choice.
That was a good choice.
Nemo?
Yeah.
actually, I know a way to compare.
Others would like to know your location.
You're saying that Dolphin's the best file manager, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Dolphin
I have a
is the
test to
best.
actually confirm this. I want you to open Dolphin and a terminal. Okay.
I don't have to open Dolphin and a terminal. I can open the terminal in Dolphin.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
can.
very much.
I can do that in Nemo too, though. You can do that in basically every file manager. But there's a reason I'm saying this, okay? If you copy a file in Nautilus, or not Nautilus, in Nemo,
Yeah.
and you paste it into the terminal, then you just get the file path.
Mhm.
You do that in Nautilus, you get a bunch of other gobbledygook. and the file path, which is a pain because when you're trying to edit something or modify something in a folder and you're not where you need to be, copying and pasting makes things a lot easier. Now, I don't know if Dolphin does that, and that's why I say check.
I'm not on KDE, so I can't tell you.
Are you talking about dragging a file out of Dolphin into a terminal?
No, I'm talking, well, yes, technically, but like copy paste into a terminal. And instead of like moving the file anywhere, it will just paste the path to the file.
Yeah, Nautilus.
Just checked. It does do it. Can confirm. If you drag it, if you pick it up and drag it onto the terminal window, it does it, even in i3, because I'm doing that. And if you copy it out of Dolphin into the terminal, just the path.
Okay. Well, good.
So we're settled. It is the best file manager on the planet.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
For KDE.
No.
For everyone.
Bar none. Bar none.
QT, KDE,
Everyone.
sure. For me, no.
Well,
I prefer
if you're
Nemo.
using something that's not KDE, you're obviously not using the best option.
Right.
So-
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, got him. So true.
I heavily disagree.
You
sir.
are right, Daniel. I have to admit that, but
Thomas, you're not helping any arguments here, to be
no,
honest.
you're not, Thomas. You're just digging
None of your
yourself
arguments hold water.
bigger hole. Digging yourself bigger hole.
I'm just gonna shut my mouth
Deeper
now
and
and
bigger,
just...
yes.
All right. Computer Kid, did you want to get something else into Unity?
Yeah, I had one last comment.
Go ahead.
Because I forgot to write all my thoughts down, and so
Did-
they're just floating around.
Did
But
Rico just drop off?
He's coming back.
Oh,
so I thought it was very easy and natural, and it's definitely going to stick around, at least until the next bit I want to change.
Well, like I said, for me, the install process went perfect. I didn't have no issues with the install process. Everything came up the way I expected it. And I don't know what I was expecting when I installed it. Maybe I was expecting there to be issues, and there weren't issues. So it was a good experience for me.
I actually did have issues with the installer because when I went into the mirror, I selected the wrong folder and downloaded the Groovy Gorilla instead of the Fossa and had issues. So I had to download the Fossa, and then it worked.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. Rudra, did you get your audio working yet?
Sure, when I saw him try to connect, his audio failed when he was going to say connecting to audio.
Yeah.
He's still here. His mic's open.
His mic's open, but we're not hearing him. So, well, Rudra, all I can say is I wish we could give you a chance to talk, but without the mic, obviously that's not going to happen. But I do want to thank you for all of the efforts that you put into Ubuntu Unity Remix. I don't know how many people enjoy running Unity still, but I know that I was one of those people that enjoyed running Unity, and I wish you the best with the project.
Also check Pulse Audio because it's probably a problem there. It always is.
All right. That's going to be it for Ubuntu Unity Remix. Tony, do you have the next one installed?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So the next distro, I think it's going to be the last. I don't know. I'll let it up to you guys. Ubuntu Lumina is the last one on the list. But I did add, and I don't know if we need to check it out, but I did add as a possibility we would check out Regolith. Not that it's an Ubuntu flavor, but it is it is an Ubuntu. I don't know. It's not a flavor, but it is, and it's not a remix, but it is something that I think we've checked out before, and I'd like to check out again, just because I am so intrigued by i3 and still haven't used it yet. So, but
i3 is already installed.
But Ubuntu Lumina is what we're going to check out next. And hopefully we can get Kai on next week and he can answer some of our questions about it. And if you want to check it out, you're more than welcome to go along with us and join the Telegram group. And maybe if you need any help installing it, maybe Thomas, if you have issues, maybe we can help you in the Telegram group during the week. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to check it out and we'll come back next week and talk about it. So this past week, I found out that you could actually put timestamps on YouTube, which I didn't know. And it's such a cool feature that I went back to last week's Biddle, and I'd like your guys' feedback on it. I went back to last week's Biddle and added timestamps on the video so that as you're playing it, there is a bar that's kind of bigger than the rest of the bar, the play bar, and you can skip to whatever section you want to. So I, added the distro talk section, and then when we went on to the next section, I added that, and then we talked about Apple last week, and I added that section. So if you guys want to go back and you don't have to rewatch the whole episode, but if you want to check it out and let me know if that's even worth going back and putting in, I don't mind doing it, but I'm not going to do it if nobody's going to use it. So I like it. I think it's a great thing, but I don't watch the Biddle episodes over again. So
that does seem pretty neat, though. Yeah.
How long does it take to do it?
Well, what you end up having to do is you end up needing the timestamps, and then just like typing out the time, like 0:00, and then the start of it, and then the next timestamp and the title of that section. And the next timestamp and the title of that section. So if we got like 4 sections, it's pretty much the hardest thing is finding the actual timestamp for each section. I should probably write it down while we're doing it, so that way I can easily find out where it is later. But yeah, so
is this something new? Because I've been doing timestamps on my video for a while. Or are we talking something different?
it is something that they just rolled out recently, Colin.
Are you talking about the little sections on the bar? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
I've noticed that. Oh, okay.
So not all videos have them, because that person who's releasing the video would have to go back or even when you upload it, you'd have to mark the timestamps on it. But it is there.
Nice. Thanks, YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, so check it out and let me know what you guys think about it, and if it's going to be of use or if it's not going to be of use.
Rocco, you use OBS, right?
I do.
I don't know exactly how to do it. I haven't really used OBS, but I know that some people, there is some way, maybe it's a plugin or something, where you can hit a key combo and it will record the timestamp in the video at that moment. Now, that might not work if you're like chopping off the beginning and the end, they'll be off by a certain amount. But there is a way to hit a button and it will record where you are in the video somehow.
I'll have to look into that because that would be useful. But okay, so me and OBS don't always get along. I don't know why. So I was looking for an audio visualizer, basically, for Linux user space. And, you would think this would be something simple. You just grab this thing, plug this in or do this, and bang, you got an audio visualizer. But it's not. It's never simple.
Just ask Michael. He does this all every week.
He's got a lot of scenes, yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I did ask Michael. And he pointed me to Spectralizer, I think it's called, and it is for OBS. It's a plugin, and you install the plugin, and then you have to actually play the audio and use the plugin as another source so that it can actually read the audio and then visualize it as it's going through, which I was more than willing to do, but I could not get the plugin installed. I put it in the right folders that it's supposed to be in. I tried the snap version and I tried the regular version in the repos for OBS. Neither of them Spectralizer wouldn't show up as being installed, even though it's in the plugins folders. So not exactly sure what the deal is there. I also found another one. I reached out to Joe Resington, and he pointed me to one that was on GitHub, and I went to install it, and it needs Python 2, and I'm not messing with that because it's not on not messing with that on the main machine.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
So that's kind of out for that option as well. So, like I said, me and OBS don't always get along. I will check out the timestamps and see how possible that is. But so, if anybody has or knows about an easier audio visualizer, that would be great. Because for the Linux User Space podcast, we're not going to have video. We're just going to have audio. And it would be really cool to have a visualizer if you're going to watch it on YouTube, if that's the way you're going to listen to it. But I am, I don't want to spend hours and hours trying to make it work either. All right. Before we move on, does anybody have anything? You want to open it up to whoever? You got any topics you want to talk about? Things you've done this week?
Got a server.
Got a server?
I discovered that Corsair keyboards, they tend to have a bit of software that you're supposed to install.
Oh yeah, IQ. Corsair FTW. Yeah. Let's go. Corsair is amazing.
But it doesn't support Linux. But there's an open source tool that's in development called CKB or CKB Next.
Yes.
And it works beautifully, as you can see from the RGB. So shout out to those guys. I appreciate all the work.
Can you type Can you tell that you type faster now with the RGB? Because I'm sure you do.
At night, yes, I do. When I normally can't see the keyboard.
Oh, you have to look at the keyboard to type.
Yes, because I'm one of the guys who hunts and pecks.
Oh man,
yes, I'm a filthy pleb.
You're a developer and you can't type?
I'm a filthy pleb. Yes.
Slow.
Joshua's got his RGB on.
That is, Thomas, that's really, really sad. And that's going to hinder you. I think you really need to get out. Mavis Beacon's learning to touch type and learn to touch type. Seriously, it'll make a big difference. And if you're sitting there and you're writing code and stuff, it really makes a difference if you can touch type.
I had a teacher try to teach me how to touch type at one point, and I hated it so much. It slowed me down. I couldn't figure out what I was doing. At this point, the amount of effort to learn how to touch type would it will reduce the amount of productivity I have while I'm trying to learn. And I'm just so much faster with just the hunt and peck.
You'd be even, once you get used to touch typing, you'll be even faster.
I'm sure I would be, but
about Vim,
that's just like common myths.
Oh,
Thomas,
it's like if I'm using, I don't type that fast now, but I used to type like 70 words a minute, and I could do all the funky weird characters without looking at them. And I'm really a keyboard oriented person. The mouse can sit there and I won't even use it, and it really makes a big difference.
Thomas, I got to tell you, do you ever watch Star Trek, like Star Trek Next Generation?
I watched the Star Trek movies, but I haven't seen any of the other stuff.
When I was actually probably about the age of computer kid, I'm guessing, seeing Commander Data type as fast as he did, that inspired me to want to learn to touch type on a keyboard, and I worked so hard at it until I finally got it.
But when he's at the bridge, he's just like,
it's just a matter of getting the muscle memory is really what it is.
Yeah.
I would,
really
amaze my students. I'd be typing and talking to them, and I'm writing an email, and they go, "How do you do that?" I said, "You should take typing."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I failed typing actually because the teacher put a folder over my hand so I couldn't see it. I ripped it off and walked out.
Oh no, I had one of those evil ones that would come by with a ruler and whack your wrists if you let them flex too much.
Oh, no, see,
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had this thing with authority, and people tell me what I could and could not do, and so I
Just when you were a kid?
I just taught myself. So
now my mother made me take a year of business typing when I was in like 8th grade, and then when I was when I was working as a programmer, it was like she goes, "Remember, your mother was always right." I mean, and it really did make a difference when I was in grad school. I'd be sitting there watching people trying to get their program done, and I'm just putting finishing touches on it to make the output look pretty, because they could not touch type.
Thomas, you just need to watch me type for a minute, and then you'll feel like an expert. All right, don't worry about it.
honestly, I've been just doing the hunt and peck for so long. I'm fast for hunt and peck. I know touch typing is faster. This one back here will tell me touch typing is faster.
Mhm.
And I'm sure she has been trying to tell me to learn to touch type
You can
for
have
years.
Tux teach you.
And
how
you can
to
see her
touch
nodding
type.
right there.
I agree with her.
It's not something I'm ever going to learn because I'm fast as it is, and I don't want to take the time to learn it because why go through the effort and the pain to learn when I'm fast as it is, and
You're never too old to learn.
You're never too old
Really,
to
you're
learn,
not.
Thomas.
It's just a matter of getting the muscle memory.
Yep.
It's a matter of actually, at
Neural
this point,
pathways. That's all. It's good for your brain.
at
Actually,
this
it's
point
good
for
your
him,
brain.
it's a matter of him actually wanting to do it. He's never
Yep.
going to learn
You do
if he
have to
doesn't
want
want to do
Yeah,
it.
this is true.
that's the big issue with me. I have to want to learn how to do it.
I have days.
Hey Thomas, how fast do you type?
I don't know. I haven't taken a typing test since middle school. So,
I was going to say, why go through the pain of learning Linux when you can use Windows, right?
I'm so much faster on Windows, Colin. I mean, really.
Is it though?
Sneaky Linux.
I can touch type, and I'm close to the 60 to 70 words per minute. But then I have other days where I'm at 30 because I don't know. I just find myself transposing letters. It's not that I'm not on the keys. I don't know. I mess them up. I can't help it.
Well, I think
sometimes you just space out and then
My little brother
whatever.
types with his left hand on WASD because he games a lot more than he types.
Well, that's
yeah, okay, that's where they should be.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's in the right general area anyway.
Yeah, close.
Well, it also depends. If you end up using a bunch of different computers or 2 or 3 different computers and you're used to using one of them and you're on a different one, and then the keyboard, I don't care if the keyboard, there's a difference. And then you have to get your brain wrapped around that one again.
Yep.
I just got some new machines actually yesterday. I got a couple of laptops, and that's why I can test distros now, because I used to be one machine. But I can hardly type on the other ones. I'm touch typing because I can only type on my main machine and its external keyboard.
Yeah, because that's what you're used to. But yeah, that happens to me, and I'm like, why am I typing something that doesn't even make sense? And then I realize, I haven't used this laptop in a while. Yep.
Well, Thomas, if you
little
ever
netbooks.
get the urge to type, Sneaky Linux suggested, what is it? Typingclub.com.
No, can we not?
So there you go. Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
I was gonna say I have these little these Acer Aspire 1 netbooks that I still keep running, running XFCE because. And I use it for my kids. Whenever I try and type on it, the keyboards are slightly smaller, just like a little bit. They were talking like probably 80% of the size. My sausage fingers have a hard time actually getting to the keys, or I overstretch. But after about 10 minutes of banging my head against the keyboard, I can get to touch typing that. It's like the adjustment takes a little bit, like adjusting the choke on a lawnmower. It's a little bit like that, but I can get it. And I'm telling you, Thomas, even my kids are learning touch typing, and I do use the ruler barb on them.
Jeez. Yeah, it's like going from my mechanical keyboard to this little dinky Bluetooth keyboard here that I use for my iPad. Yeah, this thing is a pain about this to type on because there's no roaming room. Your fingers are like squished. But with my mechanical keyboard, I can type. While I work IT, so I got to type up tickets really fast and stuff. So I've gotten into the habit of learning how to type really, really fast. The last time I did it was like 120 words per minute when I did a typing test. So I've learned to type really, really fast doing it that way, but that was out of necessity. Now, if what you do, the PEC typing or whatever it is that you do, that works for you, then that works for you. But I do recommend the normal typing because it's the best. The touch typing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think no matter anything we say is not going to convince him.
Yeah, I think we've badgered.
He's already glazed over.
I think we've
His
badgered
eyeballs are
Thomas
glazed
enough about typing.
I mean, if he's not going to do it, if it's not going to do it because when his mom tells him to do it, yeah, he's not going to listen to us.
All right,
that's for sure.
Moving on.
Marco, how will you put this into YouTube sections?
I'll worry about that, Joshua. Thanks.
We yell at Thomas trying to make him type.
Chris, go ahead, dude.
Yes, good evening. And one of the things that kind of struck me last weekend when I was at a friend's house and talking with his son who had just graduated high school, and he just we started talking about operating systems, and he's saying, "Oh, Linux is too complex to learn," and I'm thinking he's just saying that as an excuse. I mean, I mean, the kid is a brilliant kid. I mean, he's going into the Navy as a nuclear engineer, or to learn nuclear engineering. And he throws up, "Oh, Linux is too complex to learn." And I was like, "Yeah, I bet I could get you on a Linux desktop and you wouldn't know it." And it just occurred that attitude is still out there, and with the younger generation that, you know, has more acceptance and willing to learn different ways, but then they just throw that up there because they don't want to learn it, or what? I don't know what's going on.
Well, everybody has a way they like to do things, and you know, with this person and even with Thomas, if he doesn't want to learn how to, you know, touch type, that's up to him. I mean, it's his choice. And with that kid there, and you're talking about Linux and stuff, again, it's the same scenario where he's got to wanna try Linux. You're not going to ever convince him to try it, because he'll come up with a billion reasons of why. It's just you gotta want it.
Yeah, it's like anything that we do. You know, we do this kind of stuff because it interests us. But if somebody came up to us and said, "Well, you got to try this, you got to try this," and you're like, "Well, that doesn't interest me." I mean, we all do the same thing.
Yep.
We're all gonna be like, I can't be bothered with whatever XYZ is."
Agreed.
That's like somebody trying to tell us that BSD is better and how to BSD.
Well,
it's true. It's true though, isn't it? Because I mean, it's another learning curve, isn't it? To be honest, it is another learning curve. So, you know.
I was going to say haiku. Next time someone tells me I should try haiku, I'm going to say, no, I don't want to touch type. I mean, what?
Got him.
I've spent a little bit of time studying this, actually, and it has to do with not only the way that people learn, because people not only have certain interests, but they just learn in different ways as well. And I think that people having different priorities is absolutely a good thing, and it's not necessarily bad if the priorities are different. Like, for me, the only reason I know how to type is because I had to be able to type into Minecraft chat without dying. That's literally the only reason I know how to type. So, I mean, I think the priority drives the actual experience. And honestly, as neat as touch typing is, I guess it's just not necessary for everyone, in the same way that somebody who's not interested in learning about Linux just probably doesn't need to. I mean, it's cool. We should definitely promote it when we can, but I think that people just using and doing what works for them is probably one of the best things, because they can focus on what they're actually passionate about and good about, instead of trying to change everything else.
Yep. Well, I'll give you a perfect example. It's like learning anything. Like for me, we'll just say editing audio or editing video. Like, I have a certain routine that I follow, and I'm not opposed to learning, but there are certain things where people will suggest, hey, well, why don't you try this application, or why don't you try this application? And that means I have to learn another whole workflow just to figure out if it's something that I want to use. And I don't want to take the time to do that. So I think we all fall into that sometimes, as far as, we have to want to learn it. We have to want to do it. You can't force it on people. So, Computer Kid, go ahead.
Just to comment on one thing, Chris, with his fancy ham radio title, said that he could probably get you onto a Windows desktop without you knowing it. My brothers apparently like Windows better than any other operating system, and I was setting them up an account on my computer in case they wanted it, and because they're always complaining that they don't have a computer because there's only really one for them. But I found this theme for Plasma that it scared me how much it looked like Windows. it almost confused me a little. It was ridiculous how much that Windows can look, or Linux can look like Windows. Or the Kali Linux XFCE theme. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, Farron has some themes that make it look almost identical to Windows as well.
Yep.
But again, they got to want to do it. Hey, there's Leo.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, I made it.
I see
after all.
Steve too. Steve's very
Steve,
own.
what's happening?
What's up, guys? Gals?
Another day in
How's everybody
paradise?
doing tonight in
Oh,
this
yeah, how about
second
it?
hour.
Yeah, we're doing okay, brother. We are doing okay. What's going on with you, dude?
Just getting ready for some 4th of July stuff. I've been making chicken wings for the past hour. And after this, we're going to go check out some... Oh, I saw Dan with that. That was a perk up. And then we're going to go check out some fireworks after this is all said and done.
Nice.
That sounds good.
I love explosives.
Steve, what's up with you, brother?
Oh, I just got done eating, made some ribs and coleslaw, and yeah, it was good. Topped it off with a beer and did some lawn work today, and had a 3-day weekend.
Yep.
3-day
Are
weekend.
you bringing
so
food
that's
to the conversation again, Steve, are you?
He always
Bringing-
does.
No.
He always does.
He can't help it.
All right. Anybody else got anything they want to bring up before we move on? Chicken, go ahead.
Yeah. So, did you ever eat those like mandarin orange cups when you were a kid with like the little like the juice in them and stuff like that? Did you? Okay. I discovered that you can kind of eat them like Jell-O and just slurp them up like one by one.
Interesting.
Talent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, you just now figured that out?
Is this Big Daddy food?
It might turn into that, but we'll try to keep it on to Linux here.
Sorry, I joined the wrong Zoom call, I guess.
You need a timestamp for that, Rocco. You need a timestamp for this one.
Colin, will you take care of the timestamps for me, please? All right. So just so everybody is on the same page, I don't think any of us are running Ubuntu 1910, regardless of flavor.
Nope.
But if
My
you
sister's running
are,
Pop 1910, haven't gotten her to upgrade yet.
well, you need to get her to upgrade soon.
Yeah.
Because the support is running out on July 17th. So you have, I don't know, 10, 12 odd days, to get it updated so you don't have any issues with it. Just so you're aware of it. Because like I said, I don't think any of us have it 1910, but if you do, you need to upgrade soon. Speaking of upgrading, did you guys see the rolling Rhino? Did you see Wimpy's stream with what they're doing with the Ubuntu rolling
I heard
release?
the podcast. That was great.
Yeah, I would listen to the Ubuntu podcast where
it was like,
where the
"And
idea
this-
was born.
And this is why every year we invite Stuart Langridge onto the podcast to fix the world.
Because he fixes the world, apparently.
So, what do you guys think of it? Any thoughts on that, on the rolling Ubuntu? Would you even put it on your machine?
No, I would just roll
Well,
on
I
Arch.
wouldn't, but I know people that probably would. So
I would. That intrigues me a lot.
Do it for my father-in-law.
I need to go look at how they're actually doing this just because I'm curious. I would definitely be interested in at least trying it out.
Basically, what it does is it switches your repos to the development versions. So it's like your developer, and as soon as an app comes out, it doesn't go through anyone except for the developer to you, because it's the developer repos.
So if you installed, and it's the version ahead, so if you install Rolling Rhino now on 2004, it actually upgrade you to 2010. And then you would just get the updates as they turn out. But then when 2010 is actually released, it jumps you to 2104.
That sounds both really cool, but at the same time, kind of dangerous.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's a rolling release, man.
I mean,
Is it
sure.
any more dangerous than Arch?
If they could, and if
Probably
they
not.
can introduce, and if they can integrate it in with ZSys, then they would have something that competes with Tumbleweed a little.
Oh, that would be
That would be
cool.
good.
If it could roll and then, yeah.
And then
What if I
Snapshot.
told you it already can?
Kenneth?
If I was to use a rolling release, I would use Tumbleweed.
Yeah.
And
Yay.
yeah, that would be my thing. That's what I would use. I think I'd rather just leave Ubuntu as it is.
So it is a pretty intriguing idea, but what's the benefit of using a rolling Ubuntu over, say, a rolling Tumbleweed or rolling Manjaro or something like that?
I think
What's the real benefit there?
There's just kind of like a mental hurdle that a lot of people have, where
there
they
it is.
started on
Okay.
Ubuntu and they've been hopping it around all the Ubuntus and the Mints and the Pop OSs, and they're like, I'm scared to leave the Ubuntu land where I know how everything works.
It's a safe haven for a lot of new users like myself.
A lot of old users too.
For me,
yeah,
I like the idea of there being a rolling distribution that can maybe push Tumbleweed. I mean, like,
yeah.
To me, I don't think Arch is stable enough to push it, but I think Ubuntu's got the chance to be stable enough to push it. Because I think they have more of the tooling and they have more of the QA process. So I would like to see
obviously
give Tumbleweed
it's
on
not
for its money.
intended to run as rolling right now. You'd be running the development version, so there's not as much QA, if you will, put into making sure that each rollout. I mean, not that there isn't QA in every package that gets delivered.
Sure,
it's just,
but
it's a rapid amount of change.
There are a lot of people that run Ubuntu this way anyway, apparently. And so this is just basically making it really easy to onboard onto that sort of that process.
That is true.
But my thought is, let's just say I'm just spitballing here. But if let's say Ubuntu maybe grabbed like Fedora did, grab the Open QA from OpenSUSE, and they started running those because OpenSUSE has Factory and then they have Tumbleweed, and if it passes the tests in Factory, then it rolls the Tumbleweed in the snapshots. If they did something like that, that would be pretty neat to see some other competition like that. More of a snapshot rolling as opposed to like CentOS is doing.
Well, what it does is similar to that, right? So it does have to go through some package tests, automatic tests and stuff before the package gets released. And that makes sure that it doesn't conflict with any other packaging, that sort of thing. So I'm not saying there isn't some automatic stuff already in place. However, any developer can just basically commit their updates and they come down. So it's not like after it's been released, those are stable release updates that come down after the fact. So there's a lot more care and thought into that.
This wouldn't be like you're getting the development like the Git versions of all these packages. It would be like you're getting what they're planning on putting in 2010. So you'd be getting a newer version, but you wouldn't be. You wouldn't be getting just a random commit that some developer pushes to some project.
No, you're getting each package update, but sometimes packages will update 2 or 3, 4, 5 versions before they get released from the last release. So if one of those breaks along the way, then, hang on and buckle up.
Any other thoughts on it? Nate? I'm sorry. Chicken, go ahead. You had your hand up.
So I was just going to say, I'm kind of along the same string of thoughts that Dan is here with it lands you onto the next track for, like in this case, it would be 2010. And then from there, you'd probably work towards the next one. And I think if any of us, I don't know if we do it as much as we used to, but I remember testing the alphas and betas every now and then was a thing. It's almost kind of like doing that, but just constantly.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And I'll admit, I do have one machine that I do development stuff on, and I just keep updating it. It sits on the next development release. So,
Big Pod, go ahead.
Hopefully, you guys can hear me now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been following the whole rolling Rhino development, and I gotta say it's a great idea, and the way it's executed, it's also quite nice, and all system is automatically upgraded to the latest packages, which is kind of great. And if you're not running Arch, it is great option as a rolling release, in my opinion.
Yep.
Computer Kid, did you have anything else?
Yeah, they just one quick comment on the whole ZSys plus rolling thing is just look out for if they ship a broken ZSys.
Chicken, go ahead.
So I think one important distinction to make between Rolling Rhino, the name might be kind of deceiving, is that it's not quite rolling. So what I would consider like a traditional rolling distro is that there is no target. A rolling distro, it's just whatever comes next and it never stops. With this kind of thing, there is a target, and that is the next release. So things will kind of be laid out as they're planned for a specific release and prepared in that way. Whereas something like Arch is just constantly like a constant stream of stuff that doesn't really have any intended goal at a certain time point. So I think that's an important distinction to make that might help clarify the type of experience you might have versus, let's say, Tumbleweed or Arch, where there isn't really necessarily an end goal in sight for each step.
That makes
Well,
sense.
technically, Tumbleweed's not a true rolling distribution, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is a little distinction. They don't. They have snapshots. So they do basically they have a series of. So it's really more like very rapid static releases is what they are. Yes.
Yep.
Kind of like hopscotch. And sometimes, so you can actually, if you monitor, there's a site where they review the stability of the different snapshots. So if you see that the snapshot coming up has maybe some issues, you wouldn't have to roll. You can actually tell the system that you want to roll to a specific snapshot. And so that's it's a little bit different. And so what Leap is at some point in time in the development of Tumbleweed, they break off Leap and they make the next static. So it's not necessarily entirely different than that Rhino, except I think it Rhino might actually slow down for a little bit though. So it might be like rest stops on a trip.
Yeah, they do pull from. They don't use what's actually in Tumbleweed for every component of Leap, because like Leap uses the same like really core stuff like systemd and the kernel and everything as SLE does. So they're on kernel 5.3 with a lot of stuff backported into it, of course. But on kernel 5.3, on like systemd, certainly not whatever the newest one is, but like an older version of that kind of thing.
So just roughly, what's the cadence on the snapshots?
Like 6 a week, I think, is
Roughly.
what I usually see.
Yeah, so that's pretty rapid.
Yeah, 4 to 6. It
And
depends,
that's
but it's not
monitored by
everything.
the
And the great thing about those is that, like, say you have a problematic configuration, like having an NVIDIA card, then, like if you're on a true rolling distro like Arch, then you roll forward, and then you find out NVIDIA borks it, and if you've been smart and thought ahead and set it up correctly, you might have a system like Timeshift or Snapper where you can roll back. But on Tumbleweed, unless you specifically disable it, you will always have that. And because of the review site, you can check ahead of time, like, hey, NVIDIA's broken in this thing, so I can just wait and not update for a week or two.
Actually,
it's not a
if you're
mailing
on,
list either.
Yeah,
actually,
on the
if you're-
mailing. What about mailing list?
It's not just a mailing list. Like they actually have a spot you can click on, and it'll give you all the information, a link to bug
Indeed.
reports, a link to any different changes in the APIs and all this stuff. So you can it's a good review tool that they use. And Computer Kid had something because he always has something. So I want to hear what he's going to say.
Yeah, I have to defend Arch. Because if you do get a broken package, you just go into the right directory, run a command, and you're back on your old version.
Oh, sure. Like that always works.
All right, so this is what we're going to do.
You can roll back to the previous package. It's all you can do that. I've done it before. It works.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to play a little game here. And Nate is going to cover OpenSys, and Dan is going to cover Rolling Rhino there, whatever it is. And Computer Kid, you can cover Arch.
Always.
Okay, so Nate, you had
Gonna cover
mentioned it.
Solus.
You had mentioned. Well, that's a good point.
Peter has to be here for that.
He's not here.
Well, he is, but just in the YouTube. He needs to. We need to talk to him. Probably have to have a site visit and say, "Come on, Peter, what's going on here?"
Nate, you mentioned about the what SUSE does before, but can you explain a little bit further about the rolling release and how the packages are checked?
So there's the Open QA. It's another project under the OpenSUSE umbrella, sub project, and that actually has an automated testing system. So it goes through and it does a lot of the tests. They have a battery of tests, and those battery of tests actually get more and more complex as time goes on. As bugs are filed, they adjust that Open QA system to make it, to refine it. And so, which is why Tumbleweed is much better today than it was like 2 years ago. Anyway, and so if it doesn't pass to a certain level, like within Open QA, it does not get pushed out to that snapshot. So it's held back until they can fix those problems. And so, I'm on the mailing list for the project. So I'll see sometimes, if there's an issue with a new version and somebody doesn't actually get to it in a timely fashion, they'll actually pull it out of the official repo. So that can be a problem, if you, let's say you're relying on an application of some kind, let's say SyncThing GTK, and someone decides to pull it out because it's not being maintained. But it kind of keeps people engaged in it, I would say. So
and that's every package?
Every package has to go through the Open QA system. Yeah.
All right, Dan, what about Rhino?
Similar thing with Ubuntu packaging. A maintainer will make changes to that package, hopefully update that to the latest version. Oftentimes it's synced from Debian testing. However, there are packages that don't do that. The maintainer may just update them in Ubuntu, and there could be a reason for that. Regardless, when they get uploaded, they do go through a package test. They do a test build, and hopefully that builds okay. And then it will go into the proposed repository, and it will get built against other packages that are there or in the released repository. And if it goes through some package tests like the OBS, I guess, and if they don't pass, they won't migrate. So it's kind of a automated QA test sort of thing. Yeah, so if they don't pass, then they don't move on.
All right, Computer
hopefully
Kid.
They do, and then you could get several different iterations of that during a development cycle because they're 6 months long. So,
Computer Kid, it's your time to defend Arch.
So you're asking is how Arch does their processing for the packages before they hit your computer?
Yep.
So Arch has different levels, like kind of tiers for their repos. There is the core repo, which contains all the packages for building Arch Linux and connecting to the internet and all the basics like that. And it has pretty strict requirements. Developers and users, like a set amount, has to sign off on the update before they're accepted. So it's up to those developers and users who have to sign up to do their testing, but they have like their own channels to do that communication. And then there's the extra repository, which is window managers, web browsers, and media players, stuff like that. That has, I'm pretty sure, about the same level of testing. And then there's the community repository, which has to be, it's only binaries and stuff that have been tested by the trusted users of the Arch user repository. So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, what's your question?
Isn't that like the situation where like a trusted user will adopt an AUR package, and so they're in charge of that in the community repo?
I'm not 100% Oh wait, yeah.
Like if it's installed
Yes.
enough or whatever. I don't remember what
Yes.
the metric is.
I don't know exactly how it does, but I'm pretty sure it is. If your package is, I don't know, something enough in the AUR, and you're the person who manages it, then you could get transitioned to the community. And then there's multi-lib, which is all the stuff that is for like using 32-bit applications. And actually, I'm not really sure on that. And then you've got testing and AUR and stuff, and those are all just, there's no testing. You're on your own. Goodbye.
All right, who wants to take on Solus? Nobody? Anybody?
I wanted to say what Mint Spider is. He's going through some stuff, so he's not able to come on stream right now.
Okay.
But he said to let you know that Solus has an unstable repo that gets updated constantly, and a stable repo that gets updated from unstable after testing on a Friday.
Yep. So they do have different layers of testing. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a best way or a best practice to do things. Everybody has their own way of doing it. But I think there, as you can see, there is a lot of testing going on for any one of those systems. Now, my question to you guys is there more testing, say, from Arch to Manjaro? Because I know Manjaro has their own repos and they have... so do they do more testing than in the actual Arch install?
It's just
Yes,
a wait and see, I
definitely
thought,
yes.
right?
No, there is basically you have unstable, which is basically a copy of Arch. Then after a few days, if everything works okay with those set of users, it goes into testing, and if those users don't report any bugs, after 14 days it goes into stable.
Yeah, so it's a wait
14
thing,
days.
right? They just hold it for an amount of time.
And
so that
they
it
also do
eventually goes
some
down.
testing themselves, but not as much. Basically, it's mainly it's user testing.
It sounds like
But
Big Pod's adopted Manjaro.
No, I'm on Ubuntu, but I used to use Manjaro.
So
and Arch and other stuff.
It's kind of yes and kind of no. It's more that the testing is different. So Arch has its own testing layers that get done, and then Manjaro pulls from there and does their own sort of testing. Those kinds of tests are not for every single package that comes from Arch. Those kinds of tests are for their configurations and their system that they're shipping. It's not going to be separate tests for every single package that's in the repositories, but rather the experience they're delivering to their users and common applications and things like that. So some random package from the Arch repos that makes it in might not get additional testing because there's no reason for them to test it. It should probably just work. But there are other things they do test explicitly, which has to do with the extensions they ship, the themes they ship, the configuration files they ship, their scripts, all of that other stuff gets tested in addition to whatever's coming from Arch as well. So it's a little bit of, yes, they test technically more, but they test different things. So it's testing on top of testing for a package set rather than individual things.
And then you also get the whole like unstable testing users sort of buffer period.
Yes.
Just in case.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of similar in Ubuntu where if you have a group of packages or even just a single package, the developer will upload them to a PPA and do testing out of a PPA, and then migrate it to the regular repo, and then
That's the dream, isn't it?
And then it'll have to migrate even into again from proposed into release. So that's a ton of testing as well.
The problem is when
mention-
developers leave their packages in PPAs forever, and then it's terrible
Well,
to install them.
No, and
That's,
then there's
that's one of the.
The
people
AUR
that
has
have
the
their own
exact same
PPAs.
problem.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't, because you can get AUR helpers that make it very easy.
Well, you can flag things in the AUR. I'll give you that. I don't know of an easy way to for users to flag PPAs as being out of date.
Thank you.
Well, you move past that release, right? And then they're no good.
Then they're no good.
Oh, that's true. Unless you're stupid like me and manually backport it. Okay,
Yeah,
I
you
see what I
shouldn't do
did.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I was gonna say, I've stress tested, like as Tumbleweed. I've let an install go for many months. Like I've gone 6 months, then installed, and it's been fine. I've done that with Manjaro, and it has also survived my negligence testing, I should call it actually. Arch has not, but I will say Manjaro has been able to. Something Manjaro does different than Arch, that it can actually handle negligence of users like me. So
what actually broke?
X, I couldn't log it. It just stopped working.
Well, yeah, X sucks.
Right.
No, it
but
doesn't.
it doesn't suck. It doesn't suck
It's
bad
really
on
hard.
other distributions.
Okay.
But what I'm just saying,
that's fair.
Negligence testing, because that for me, a distribution's got to be able to sustain me, and my lack of discipline that can creep in, because I have the problem where I take on too many things. I do this all the time in my life, and then certain things fall off, and then things change, and I pick those things back up, and so things like computers, if they can't survive that kind of stress testing, then I cannot use that distro, so I can never use Arch. Arch is never going to be a good distro for me because of that reason. So Manjaro will survive that though. So whatever Manjaro does different, whatever they put different in the sauce, they have something special in there, and I don't know what it is.
One quick question: how long is this negligence testing?
It's like 4 to 6 months. I've done 9-month testing as well.
Okay, never mind.
For me, it survived more than that.
Tumbleweed, good. It's not worked for me, but Tumbleweed can sustain that. So
I think Wes Payne from Linux Unplugged has a story of an Arch laptop that like got shipped somewhere, like overseas, and survived that. I don't know how long it was, but an Arch laptop that somehow made it.
I've gone almost a month before.
My Debian SID didn't last 3 weeks and broke X after an update.
Yeah, that's rough stuff there.
Well, I got a question for you guys. You hear all the time that open source software is better because there are many eyes on the code. And I guess coming, when I was brand new to everything, my question at that time was, is that possible that all these programs, that the whole Linux, all of the distros, every piece of code in the system of this, say, Pop OS install, is every single thing reviewed, looked at, and done? And that includes, like I said, every program as well. So you hear this thing all the time where open source is better because you can see the code, you can see what it does, but how much of that is actually looked at and reviewed?
Do you use NVIDIA drivers?
Well, they're not open source.
Exactly.
Well, that depends on the project, and it depends. Are you talking about people? What's the word I'm looking for? Like packages being audited, or just?
I'm just talking from a layman's term.
Well, okay,
if I'm coming from Windows, and you say to me, open source is better because the code can be reviewed, but how much actually does that happen in real world situations?
Okay, so you're not talking about, all right. So, honestly, that depends on the project. Because you'll find like a thing, where you have hundreds or thousands of people working on it, and then you'll find this other thing, which is one guy had an itch to scratch, and he put the repo up publicly because that's what you do, and maybe some other folks submitted bug reports or whatever. And also I was thinking about that it's like you always on Linux Spotlight talk about on the purist to pragmatic scale. And for certain types of users, it's a lot easier to be a purist. Like I was thinking about, like I use Discord and I use Zoom, and I use Steam and games that come with it, and the NVIDIA driver, I believe, and the NVIDIA driver, and well, multimedia codecs. And I couldn't really think of any other proprietary applications I had installed. And then I realized, well, that's because of the kind of stuff I like to do. Like if you are a developer and you like this open source development model, then you're going to write developer tools using the open source development model. So like if I'm, not that I have like a job in that or anything, but so like tools that are tailored for tech geeks are written by tech geeks who want to do the open source thing to succeed, and so they're open source. But like you talk about like, okay, so Kdenlive or whatever is not going to be as good. It's not as good as DaVinci Resolve because most of the people that are editing videos are not programmers. So they're not writing. They don't have that impetus to write the product to write the thing that they want to use.
Right. That's a good point, though. You make a good point that's a lot of times that's what happens. People will make something, and no, the guys editing the videos are not designing Kdenlive. I can tell you that.
Oh, KDE and designers. I think you can listen to Michael talk about that another time.
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, Michael's here. Hey,
Leo, go ahead.
That was great.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, that's a pretty big important thing for all of it. But I think even more than that yes, the code is open, and we like to kind of shimmy and shake and say that, yeah, everybody can come take a look at this, and it's going to be really, really good. And if everybody looks at this, it's going to have awesome changes made to it, and it's going to be better. Except nobody looks at it. Nobody does. And like, there's one, and it was a few years ago, one really important example of this. Open SSL. The internet was literally about to break. And it was one guy creating and updating Open SSL. And then everybody was like, oh my God, the internet's about to explode. We should probably send this guy lots and lots of money so he can do his job. And then he was able to add more people to the development of Open SSL. But I mean, that's case in point. Don't get me wrong. I love me some open source. And I do agree that, having eyes on the stuff is really important. And we can do that in open source, just that it doesn't always happen the way that we like to envision that it does. So be careful with that particular statement. It can get you in trouble.
There's another benefit that I'll, talk to people about with open source. And that is that not even if you're not a coder, you still get kind of the safety net from the fact that companies have to work together on some of these things. So like if you take Internet Explorer, Microsoft added all of these extra nifty proprietary things onto Internet Explorer so that there are certain web pages you can only use in Internet Explorer. And then later they were like, hey, Internet Explorer is crap. We're not going to do anything else with it. And so then, well, all of a sudden you have all these legacy technologies that they, that are no longer supported, that you just suddenly have to migrate off of. And the same thing just recently happened with Flash. But so I'm an open standard, an open source kind of tool that doesn't make you bulletproof against that, but at least means that if there's one entity that's using this open source tool and sort of driving the development behind it, even if they decide it's not worth it anymore, then if there's another entity that it depends on that, then they can step in and make sure it doesn't die and mess up everyone else's day.
Anybody remember X386?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. It wasn't. Anyway, so so the answer, my opinion to that question is the statement that there's a lot of people that can look at the code has a particular word that needs to be clarified and underlined and boldened and everything, and that is the word can. Because yes, you can have that many people look at it, but you're not likely to get that many people looking at it. So yes, the concept of open source is true in that sense, but best in practice, it's like maybe 5% of projects get even remotely near that.
Prophetic, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the whole Heartbleed.
Hold on one second,
bug.
dude. Your volume is like a little hot.
Okay, I mean, right now. How's this?
A little bit too low.
Okay.
Right there.
Just right. So the Heartbleed bug was a great example. I think, Leo, you mentioned that. But here's the kicker. There were two people. One person was doing the review, and he missed it. And that John was off for 2 years before someone actually found it. So, and that's a major, major project. And so I find like that qualifier that can be reviewed is important. I think it's probably like a close second to Linux. It just works. It can work, yes, and it usually does. But I think it's important to put those qualifiers that it's the potential to have eyeballs depending on the project and the auditing system and that kind of thing. And I know particularly with the Heartbleed bug, I was kind of annoyed where people were saying, well, what do you expect? It's just two guys. I was like, no, this is the flag that open source prides itself in, that everybody gets a chip in, and it failed.
Was just two guys because people weren't chipping in. The problem is that people weren't, even though they were heavily using the software that Heartbleed was affected by. There was hundreds of companies using it for thousands of developers and like millions of dollars at stake. And they were like, yeah, these two guys can do it.
This is the same issue with OpenSSL.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the assumption of big companies using it gives you another layer of comfort and confidence, because some people would assume, maybe not the in the know people like people in this group, but casually people might think, oh, it's going to be okay. And that's not the case. And while this could be like one bad example of all the open source projects, we should have some consideration on that. I think this stat was like per 100,000 lines of code, you're bound to have some type of issue. And even with Heartbleed was a big dropping of the ball, I think overall net value, open source is still the best in this case. But I just don't like the overconfidence sometimes that we espouse about whether Linux is just works and it's easy to switch and all the stuff is, it depends on if you have an obscure package, some tucked away somewhere. I don't know about that. And you see the GitHub has only a few pull requests per year. And then it's like, we got to be careful with how we frame these statements that more eyeballs always equals more security.
Fully agree.
No, more eyeballs does equal more security. The problem is getting the more eyeballs on the thing.
Yeah.
that's
assuming that a major project has
right.
more eyeballs.
I mean, the idea that the problem is the Heartbleed didn't have the eyeballs, even though you would assume they did because of how many people were using it.
Yeah.
If they did, it probably wouldn't have happened. And that's just a problem you can't really avoid unless.
And
the good thing about Heartbleed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say one more quick thing was like this whole thing of like monetization and support. I kind of have like a little less tolerance for that, because if you have all these companies using the project and you're still not finding funding channels, that's something that developers, I don't know when it's going to happen, but developers have to get on the ball with either outsourcing their marketing and fundraising communications, or they need to get with it, because that's no excuse to say, hey, we're understaffed or underfunded. That's sorry that you have to figure that thing out, just like a nonprofit would, just like a for-profit would. You have to figure out your funding models. You can't just build it and hope people will come. That's your problem. You have to fix it. Either outsource it, get some help, or you got to learn these things yourself in the midst of the engineering, which is hard to do, but there's too much at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick question for people that know more about this than I do. I know the LBRY SSL thing, was that a case of people forking it, or was that, which I suppose this method would be more in OpenBSD fashion, just saying we're going to rebuild SSL from the ground up because it's fundamentally broken?
I think they forked it. I'm pretty sure they forked it. But also, I think that they're not really spending that much. I think they're not. I think they've adopted OpenSSL back.
I kind of well, I'm pretty sure they haven't, but sometimes it feels like they could have done a lot more good just by contributing to OpenSSL. Anyway.
Sure. I think the problem is that OpenBSD does things on their own often because they like to point out that they are the most secure thing. We've only found 2 vulnerabilities or whatever.
Your base system.
Yeah, and mostly it's just because because the BSDs are so different from each other. They're so different from Linux, because OpenBSD and FreeBSD are not compatible. If you get a package from one, they're not going to work in the other. So it's good that they do some things. They actually do maintain some projects that are heavily used in other platforms, even Mac OS and Linux. So it's good that happens. But I think Profetit's point about these projects having some kind of funding method model is fundamentally important. Not pun intended. So the problem though is that most of the developers don't have any idea of what to do because it takes a certain set of skills for being a developer and there's a certain set of skills for project management and marketing and fundraising and all that stuff, and they usually don't have any overlap at all.
Chicken, go ahead.
So I was going to say that there's multiple aspects of having eyes on code as well. I think when something's in development and when something's open source, a lot of the eyes you have looking at it are not looking at things that already exist and have been declared and established for a while. They're targeted specifically at new code or changes to code. Like when you go into a Git repo, you're going to see tracking changes of everything, and that's usually what gets the most attention. A lot of time there's no reason to think, well, let's just go ahead and see if we can just review the entire code base of something just for the fun of it, because there's so much other work to be done trying to figure out how a new addition or a deletion or a change affects other things. And I think just that focus alone draws a lot of attention away from what's already there and might not necessarily need to be there or probably shouldn't be there, and points it directly to what's changing, what's hot right now. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons that these things get away from us so much, is just that, sure, you can look at the code, but what part of the code are you looking at too when you are? And
It's
so
human
that's just
nature.
another fragmentation.
It's human nature, I think, to want to be on the new hotness
Yeah.
instead of going
Yep.
and doing the custodial stuff. It's like, yeah, that's broken, but I mean, I'm working on this right now, so definitely.
And that's why I think the whole marketing communications is still undervalued. Of course, the long-term look at this thing is like, okay, funding, yeah, marketing, and that's make that connection there. That's easy. But to Shikel's point about what about the stuff that's not sexy, that stuff that takes time, I'm really impressed by one of the people who helped coordinate all the Ubuntu releases for bug testing week and tried to create some traction on bug testing week.
Yusuf?
People may not realize it, but that kudos to him, because that is a communications campaign that he just did, and people don't even realize what to name that thing he did. He took something that was not fun all the time, bug testing, hyped it up, gave it a theme, gave it a week, so it's stationary in a calendar that you can target on a communications side of things. That could be easy. So I thought that was to the stuff that's not fun, with the power of communication techniques and marketing techniques, you could spin it, you could rally the troops, so to speak.
Computer Kid, go ahead.
So to build off of a couple other points, you really do have to set yourself up for success. Because the other, I said I got a server the other day. I'm going to start running some stuff on it, hopefully tomorrow when the hard drives come in. And one of the things I plan to self-host was a service called Own Photos, which I found out yesterday is dead. because it had tons of eyeballs on it, but the developer didn't set it up correctly, and he left. And then the GitHub was inoperable, and the community just didn't have their spearhead that they once did with their leader. And so you really have to set yourself up, and you don't just need developers. You do need project managers and people who are going to manage the troops. You don't just need eyeballs. You need to put the eyeballs in the right places.
Yep, that's definitely true. And I think in open source, we have a big problem with abandonware, especially with small projects. And then not only that, but like potential abandonware, like there
Hanging by a thread.
There was a talk I watched once about it was about like Vim, but so the guy like there was an interview with the creator, and he's still the BDLL, which if you don't know, that stands for Benevolent Dictator for Life, of the project. But so his he was asked like, oh, so what are you doing to make sure that Vim development is stable and keeps going? How can we make sure that Vim keeps going? And he was like, keep me alive. And the presenter and I were like, okay, great, thanks. I'm gonna go find a different editor. And so now I'm on NeoVim.
Oh,
Yeah,
why aren't you on
that's an atrocious
Nano?
answer.
Yeah, I mean that's a bad answer, but it's also kind of funny. But isn't NeoVim wasn't that dropped?
Proprietary editor? No, NeoVim was not dropped. In fact,
I thought it was merged back into
0.5
Vim.
is coming soon. No, well, basically because NeoVim became a thing and they added features that Bram has been blocking for years because he doesn't use them. Bram was kind of forced to add those features to Vim 8, so it's good. It's creating competition.
Okay, that's good.
But so stuff like asynchronous support, so like when you have a syntax checker, it can actually run while you're editing, and you don't have to wait after every save before you can type again.
Yeah, like Sublime Text does. Yeah, sure.
Like that proprietary text editor, yes.
Got him.
That's not as good.
When you can use Sublime in the terminal, maybe I'll start using it more.
That's fine. I don't need to use the terminal for my editor. It's okay.
Chris, go ahead.
You're muted, Chris.
You're still muted. There we go.
Hey, all right. So I was just kind of curious if VI was still being developed and supported, or did Vim?
Well, VI and Vim are different things, and there are a couple of different versions of VI. And on most Linux systems, what you see as VI is actually a stripped down version of Vim called vim.tiny. So probably, unless you've been using Linux since like the 90s, you've been using, if anytime you've used VI, you've used Vim. That being said, on other Unices, there are still like, maybe it's the original VI, I don't know. Like BSD has a version that's really bad and you should not use. And then Slackware has their own version called Elvis. But yeah, I don't know about the status of the original one.
Well, the few weeks ago, I was mentioning EDT off of VMS, and I was always looking for an emulator or something similar to EDT because I still have the muscle memory from when I was working on a VMS system, and I can fly through the keypad and edit faster, I think, than I can through Vim. And
are you touch typing, Chris?
No, and I was not single clicking either because there was nothing to click. But I found a EDT mode for Emacs.
Oh yes, there's every mode for Emacs. There's a Vim mode for Emacs.
All right.
I haven't had a chance to play with that, but I'm kind of excited about it. So, and Rocco, I can't seem to get my hand. Oh, there it goes. So
I think I got it for you, Chris.
thanks.
I was actually going to ask Chris if that was on the punch card system that he started out on.
Vaxxus did not use punch cards, nor did PDP 11s, 1173s. They may have had paper tape, but the Vaxxus were all disk and tape based. So
I have much respect for the creators of Unix that program the entire thing on teletypes with paper tape.
Yeah, in C.
With ED.
Yeah.
Ed. Yep. That's what we
Daniel.
should go back to.
I have a quick question for Daniel. Is there a way to tell if you're using Vi or Vim Tiny?
You can probably, I think if you stat VI, it'll tell you if it's a symlink to vim.tiny. I believe that's how it works on most systems. But and you can also check if you have a binary vim.tiny. You being on Arch, you might not even have VI at all, because why do we need a default editor? Keep it simple.
Yeah, you have to install the default editor yourself. Otherwise,
If
you
you
might
go
get
into the chroot and you've forgotten to install an editor, what do you do?
You should have installed the editor. Why didn't you? It says right in the wiki, install the editor here if you're going to need it.
Windows Notepad.
But if you have to install it yourself, that makes it a non-default editor because it's not there by default.
Don't forget to
also,
install Linux when you install Linux.
Yeah, there you do. That too.
Sudo apt install.
They actually did do the update. One of the updates, they were like, "We're going to take away like fundamental pieces. You're just going to have to pick the things you want." Like, yeah, but I shouldn't have to pick fundamental pieces of the kernel to be installed.
That's a little silly. I have some ideas to solve that, but they're ridiculous ideas. So
Make it actually simple rather than what they claim is simple. Maybe.
They mean simple like rock. Arch like rock.
Is that what they mean?
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a national park called Arches, and it's arches made out of rocks.
All right.
Yes.
That all connected. I like how it all connects.
Oh my god!
I like how Rocco put his head down and just had to go.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Here we go. Okay. So I brought up the whole, eyeballs on code, and the reason I brought it up was because, like I said, you hear this. I heard it ever since I was on Windows, that open source, that Linux was better because of that. And just maybe reiterate what you guys had brought out in that conversation, that we got to choose our words wisely when we talk to people, because we may be their only experience in open source or in Linux. And if we say things like that, that's not good. So we just got to choose our words wisely so that we don't say something that's false, because I don't care. Number one, you're not going to fix all the bugs. Even if you had 1 million eyeballs on it, there's going to be things that get through. Look at Microsoft.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at Windows.
They have how many paid employees to look at code, and they still have many thousands of bugs.
They choose to ignore things. Like, they don't even care. They choose to ignore it. There's multiple times where their insider program told them of massive problems months ahead of time, and they're like, ship it. That's fine. And then it breaks people's and deletes people's data, and they're like, it happened. Yeah. That's how I imagine they sound like.
One try.
Bugs. That's their answer. Bugs happen.
But anyway, like I said, we are some people's first experience with open source and Linux, so we should probably tell them the right things, give them the right impression from the beginning.
You just give emphasis when say the exact same sentence with this emphasis. Open source can have thousands of people looking at the code.
There you go.
And therefore would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult as well, because whenever I mention these things to people, I just leave that part out entirely, because it's not like they're going to be looking at any of it. They're
it's
here to use it.
It's a lot of times it's not just brought up as as bugs. It's a lot of time brought up as a security feature. Like, hey, Linux is more secure because you can audit the code, and that's not necessarily the case.
Well, it's brought
That
up a lot of
could be the
times as
case, but it's not
brought up as a
necessarily
selling
the case.
point.
Yeah.
It's a selling
Linux
point. They say you
kind
guys
of
wish
is
this
true.
because of this. No.
I don't
The
want
problem
it
is
to
that
be
if you
kind
say-
of true, Michael. I want it to be true or false.
It is true in the terms of the Linux kernel because there are tens of thousands of people looking at the kernel all the time.
So wait. Are you
that's
saying
true.
that every bit of code in the kernel is looked at constantly?
By someone, pretty much, yes. Because
Is there
they
someone-
have
with
testing.
the how
they
many
have multiple
what was
multiple
the
tiers of
ridiculous
testing.
number? Like of lines of code, like
Over millions.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's the case.
Every single thing that gets
7 million lines
added,
of code.
every single thing that gets added is tested before and reviewed and audited before it gets added. So after the fact, if something could have broken something previously that was already there, yeah, that could happen for sure. But they like the kernel is one of the examples where it is kind of true because they have so many people working on it and people who are dedicatedly paid by a company to work on it. So like, and it's also multiple tiers because you have to get your stuff, your code sent through one tier to get them to review it, and then another tier, and then finally Linus decides whether to do it or not. And there's like, super amounts of things. So if you say Linux and you do the whole, well, Linux is just the kernel thing, it's kind of true. If you're talking about Linux, the ecosystem and the desktop, well, I mean, there's very, very many variables that it's not true.
Man, if I was trying to
GNU plus Linux.
if
Now it's GNU plus
I was
Linux
trying to-
System D.
Can we
Let's be
just drop
realistic.
the whole GNU thing? Like,
yes, please.
From everything.
Serpent OS.
Yeah, go to
Serpent
Serpent and Alpine and BSD.
Michael, I have to say, if I was trying to patch the kernel with all those tiers, I'd just be crying with all those tiers.
Oh, wow. Wow. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I'm sure
Respect.
Michael could go on for hours. And
How
you
dare
all
you?
all
Yes,
know
let's
that.
go ahead.
But
He could. No, he could.
but we're gonna run out of time here.
I've only been here for 30 minutes. I get at least another hour and a half.
It's too bad
how that works.
It's too bad you were late,
You have
dude,
your
huh?
entire other show tomorrow.
That's
right?
not enough. That's not enough.
All right, Dan, last word.
Oh, thanks, Rocco, as always. It's been fun. Good discussion tonight, and had fun with Unity, reminiscing. So that was cool, too. So, all
right.
Everybody have a good week.
Eris, last word.
Thank you for the stream and wish you the best, Rocco, on your surgery Monday.
Thank you. Tony, last word.
Yes, it's installed. I struggled to keep awake again this week. Some of the conversation was a bit over my head, but it was interesting nevertheless. So I'm learning every week something new, and at my age, that's not such a bad thing, I suppose. But take care, everyone. Till next week. Wish you all the best for Monday, Rocco, and hopefully see you same time, same place next week. Oh, and don't forget, Rocco, next week, BDLL Europe.
See, it's not the same time and same place. It's earlier.
It is earlier. And
Yeah.
again, afterwards, it'll be the same time,
Right.
same place.
Very good, Tony. Very good. Jason, last word.
Again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who, Rocco and Dan and everybody else to help out with the show and to make the show possible, and all you guys here that come in and have a great conversation. Whether it's Linux based or anti-Arctic based or whatever the case may be, it's very fun and eventful, conversations. Rocco, I wish you the best of luck in your surgery, and hopefully, everything goes well and you recover quickly.
Jinda, last word.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. Everyone have a good one. Good luck on your surgery, Rocco. I hope everything goes smooth. I'll see you guys all next week, and we promise not to pick on Tom, I hope, as much as we did this time, correct?
We'll try.
Oh, okay, we'll try.
We'll make an effort. Colin.
Good night, Rocco. No, just joking.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, Rock and Co, for the platform. Looking forward to trying. What was it again?
Ubuntu Lumina.
Yeah.
Lumina, that's the one. Yep.
Lumina.
So we'll give that a go, see how it goes. Everybody have a great week and stay safe, and see you next week.
Schickle.
Well, it's like I always say, appreciate what you what, BR that make you appreciate what you did.
I understood all of that.
Okay. Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you for letting me back on again this week. Ubuntu Unity was fantastic. Loved it. Can't wait to check out Ubuntu Lumina. I've talked to Kai a few times, and he seems like a great guy, and I can't wait to see what he's been working on. Rocco, I wish you luck with your surgery. And you guys may like to give me flack all the time. One of these days, I'll be flacking all of you, but it will be great either way.
We love you, Thomas.
Yep.
Nate, last word.
Thomas, it's good to have aspirations. I appreciate that. So, Rocco, thanks for letting me be a part of this and for having this forum. It's always fun. It's a great group of people to hang out with on a Saturday night.
It is. I have to agree.
I'll see you next week. And good luck with that other stuff you got going on, whatever it is.
Yeah, life, you know. Big Pod, last word.
Check out my YouTube channel. And yeah, we should drop that GNU from GNU/Linux because Linux by itself is an operating system.
That's a hot subject to touch. But Big Pod, why don't you put
we
a
have
link?
an hour and a half. We can totally talk about it.
It's got a YouTube channel.
Why don't you put a link in the chat for your YouTube channel? Yep. Computer Kid, last word.
Thanks for having me again. It was really fun. I know that some of you go to Self. Thanks to that Nick Bebout, he gave me these test machines. But I prefer to be calling it New plus Linux. Bye.
Bill, last word.
Hey, Rocco. Good luck Monday on the plumbing adventure, and I hope the Roto-Rooter is not too bad. Dan, thank you for helping. For Nate, if people haven't noticed, Nate put out some great videos the end of the week on OpenSUSE and an installation, old school installation of OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and you should check those out. Or Leap, I'm sorry, Leap, I'm sorry. Frogger, you know, all those things. I get messed up.
All right, Farron, last word.
Well, I mean, it's like for most of this, I was literally just listening in while working on certain things, but I guess I'll say this. I have come to make an announcement. What you're referring to is actually GNU plus Linux.
Oh my gosh. Here we go.
Hey, that's what I said.
Not sorry.
Not sorry. Chris, last word.
Also, good luck.
Thanks, man.
Zebra.
Oh, dear, please.
Or Mega.
Zebra is the last word.
Well, I mean, it starts with a Z, so I figured, okay. No, I'm glad I was able to get in this week and look forward to next week. So, and good luck on endeavors, and I hope everybody who is in the U.S. or wants to celebrate with the U.S. for the Independence Day. Hope you guys had a great time, and that's about all I have.
Steve, last word.
All right. Thanks, Rocco. You take care of yourself, buddy. It's good seeing everybody. Have a good weekend and be safe.
Leo.
Well, thanks as always for hosting this old shindig. Also, thanks for letting me scream about OpenSSL for a little bit. I did not come in here thinking I was going to be able to rant about that. I appreciate that. I did come with my Ubuntu swag on. You guys remember this one?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Hopic. Ooh, was one of my favorites, mostly because it was a unicorn. And good luck on Monday.
Prophetic, last word.
I get passionate about the marketing communication stuff, so sorry if I got fired up so fast. And yeah, always fun to hang out with you guys. And yeah, Nathan's content has been awesome, so I'm looking forward to more stuff like that because I've been very interested in OpenSUSE.
Michael, last word.
Okay, we have an hour. That's cool.
Singular word.
Oh, wow. zymosis.
I don't think that can be done.
So I will say just a few things. One, check out the This Week in Linux episode that's coming out tomorrow. I've already recorded. Look at me being ahead of time. And I know, right? And also, this is a thing that people will not expect me to say as a Plasma fan. Unity, I haven't tried the Ubuntu Unity remix, but I will say that Unity is one of the best DEs, maybe even the best DE ever made on Linux. Mic drop.
Hey, you forgot Plasma.
Wow.
No, I put Plasma in there. It's just, I think Unity's better overall polished wise. Anyway.
Wow. What a statement.
Shots
All right.
fired.
That is going to wrap it up for us. We are going to try Ubuntu Lumina for the week. If you want to test it out, you can join us, and we'll talk about it next week. Thank you to Rudra for putting together Ubuntu Unity Remix. There are a lot of people that still enjoy using Unity, so I think that there are a certain amount of people that will like that. Linux Spotlight did have an episode this week, because we went to that 2-week schedule, but you still can check out Monica's episode. If you haven't yet, you should. That was an awesome episode. And again, this coming Wednesday, Eric the IT Guy's episode will air, and that was also a fantastic conversation. Next week is BDLL Europe, so we will start at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then we will have the regular show at 8 p.m. And if you want to join us for one or both, you're more than welcome to do that. Other than that, I think Dan, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Check out Linux User Space.
Yep, coming up soon.
July 13th. Just saying. July 13th, dropping the first episode. So there you go.
Our
All
trailer's out there.
It is. Find it in your favorite podcast catcher. All right, that's going to wrap it up. But until next week, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So, yeah.
The latest